Imagine you experienced an injury to your left arm as a result of an accident. You were riding your bicycle on a city street when a driver swerved into the bike lane and clipped you a few inches behind the wrist with his side mirror. You heard a cracking sound, followed by severe pain, bruising, swelling, and there's a jagged piece of bone sticking out through the skin on the top of your arm. The condition is so painful that it's crippling. You can't move it without excruciating pain, and you can't flex your hand at all. Obviously, this situation requires immediate medical attention, so you call a family member to take you to the hospital. HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. At the emergency room, you're asked what your medical complaint is, and you show the doctor your arm. To your initial relief, his examination doesn't include touching the injured limb. Unfortunately, it also doesn't include ordering any internal imaging, stabilization, or pain medicine. Instead, he subjects you to an interview about how you came to be injured in this manner. At the moment, you care far more about the pain you're in than about how it happened, but maybe the doctor is worried about other injuries, so you explain. I was riding my bicycle when I was hit just in the arm by a passing car. You point your finger at the bruise where the impact occurred. Upon hearing this, the doctor still doesn't order any further evaluation or treatment of the wound. Instead, he begins attributing your condition to a prejudice against motorized vehicles and their drivers, and lecturing you on the importance of overcoming your toxic cyclist privilege so you can negotiate the diversely populated roadway without feeling so traumatized by the presence of vehicular traffic. But what about my broken arm, you might ask, feeling lightheaded from the pain and blood loss you're experiencing, only for the doctor to answer that stereotyping vehicular traffic as injurious to cyclists is autophobia. You need to learn to overcome this prejudice, he tells you, before you can even begin to heal that arm. Reminding the doctor that you didn't stereotype anything and only mentioned the car because he asked does not move you past this conversation. Instead, he suggests, have you considered why you felt so uncomfortable discussing your censorious attitude toward automobiles? Why didn't you want to tell me that you felt so severely injured simply because your life was touched by a passing car? What? Your life wasn't just touched. You were hit by a solid object at high speed, and it left you with a broken bone. You weren't even out of your lane when it happened. If it wasn't all leaking out of your body where the bone was sticking out of your arm, your blood would be boiling right now as you realize the guy is accusing you of hating cars and motorists because you sought help for an injury that was inflicted upon you by a careless driver. The emotional strain on top of the pain, inflammation, and blood loss is just too much, and your vision begins to dim. As you pass out on the examination table, you hear the doctor finally ordering treatment. A 12-week program of talk therapy sessions to address your internalized misogyny, and a risk factor evaluation to determine whether your extreme prejudice makes you a road rage threat to your fellow traveler. Does that sound like a reasonable response? Do you think your arm would have any chance of healing from the injury, much less healing fully and correctly? Would you go back to that doctor expecting his treatment plan to be effective? What if this was the way every physician was trained to respond when a cyclist sought treatment for injuries from a collision with a motor vehicle? How might that influence a cyclist's choice to do so after a roadway accident? Last week on HBR Talk, Prim Reaper and Therapy Snack joined us to begin a read-through of a resignation letter published by outgoing president of the American Psychological Association Society for Media and Technology, Christopher J. Ferguson. This week, as we continue to read and consider the issues he has raised, listeners might be advised to think about the purpose of psychological medicine and ask themselves whether it can be beneficial if the field is taken over and controlled by any form of political ideology. The discussion will stream on the Badger Livestream's YouTube channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, or you can find other listening options at HoneyBadgerBrigade.com.